Let's stop lying. You don't fear death, you fear the audit. The line item list of texts unsent, truths unspoken, boundaries avoided, art not made because you were not ready. Maraṇasati, mindfulness of death, isn't Gothic decor for monks. It's a compression algorithm for a wasted life. It takes your sprawling, cowardly calendar and shrinks it to what matters under the only deadline that cannot be negotiated. No incense, no skull ring, just this. You are scheduled for deletion at an unknown time. And almost everything you do behaves like that isn't true. Here's the provocation. Death practice is not about accepting oblivion like a good nihilist. It is about weaponizing finitude. When you carry a credible end date in your nervous system, three things happen fast. 1. Trivial appetites lose their glamour. 2. False peace, people-pleasing, brand management, spiritual theater becomes expensive. 3. Courage stops feeling exotic and starts feeling practical. What would I do if I had 6 months is a thought experiment. Maraṇasati is a runtime environment. You boot your day in the shadow of a clock you can't mute, and you let that shadow burn away fakery. Objection 1. Won't this make me cold? No, cuteness makes you cold. Maraṇasati makes you accurate. It melts the petty and unstiffens your love. You stop delaying tenderness because you're busy. You stop outsourcing your spine to tomorrow. You message the apology that rots your gut. You start living like the future owes you nothing because it doesn't. Objection 2. Isn't this morbid? Morbid is pretending we're not dying while designing lives that feel dead. Morbid is infinite scroll instead of a single honest kiss. Morbid is calling your avoidance peace. Maraṇasati returns taste. Food tastes louder, skin warmer, friends rarer, work narrower, art riskier. Numbness is the near enemy. This is the antidote. Tonight, we torch the soft focus versions of death meditation and install the real thing, clarity with teeth. We'll differentiate fierce acceptance from chic despair, grief from theater, legacy from vanity. We'll show how remembering death properly improves ethics, speeds repair, ends hostage relationships, and makes you more useful to people you'll never meet. If your practice cannot survive a clock, it's cosplay. If your compassion cannot survive a will, it's a mood. I'm silent flame. Bring a calendar you're willing to set on fire. Maraṇasati has imposters, numbness, doom aesthetic, and halo grief. They mimic courage. They produce collapse. Numbness calls itself equanimity. It's just a nervous system turning the volume down on life to avoid the panic of endings. You speak softly, wear muted colors, and congratulate yourself on not wanting much. Translation: you pre-deleted yourself so death can't. This isn't Buddhism, it's preemptive surrender, doom aesthetic, skulls on the shelf, black and white quotes about ashes, feels hardcore and changes nothing. You edit your brand. You don't edit your calendar. You still dodge the conversation, still hoard approval, still scroll until your eyes dry. That's not death practice. That's content. Halo grief weaponizes fragility. You perform sadness to avoid action. Everything passes, becomes your alibi for not choosing. You attend every vigil and never rewrite your will. You love to ache. You refuse to repair. Real Maraṇasati is the opposite of fragile. It is industrial. Repetition, audit, deployment. It reduces latency between value and action. Numbness stretches time so you can keep avoiding. Doom aesthetic romanticizes time so you can keep performing. Halo grief fogs time so you can keep not deciding. The practice snaps time tight. It asks, given death, what action today reduces net regret for the largest circle? Then it moves. Not later, now. Test your flavor. After contemplating death, are you kind of faster? Do you say no cleaner? Do you ship more of what only you can ship? If not, your death practice is theater. The near enemies produce either freeze or flaunt. Fierce remembrance produces focus. If the skull doesn't change the spreadsheet, it's decor. Burn it. Forget mystique. Maraṇasati works because it hacks allocation. The brain is a budget office juggling scarce attention, energy, and time. Most days it's run by habit and social price signals, what gets likes, what avoids conflict, what preserves brand. A credible sense of dying flips the priority function. Salience shifts from optics to essence. Mechanism 1, temporal constriction with value dilation. When horizon shrinks, attention gravitates to core projects, repair, love, creation, service, and away from status maintenance. You stop renting your life to micro approval because there's no time to amortize the shame. Mechanism 2, loss aversion inverted. Normally, you guard comfort. Under maraṇasati, the greater loss is not living. So risk appetites reallocate. You'll risk awkwardness to tell the truth, risk failure to publish, risk smaller circles to keep your soul. Mechanism 3, rumination suppression via deadline realism. Death awareness reduces the reward of second guessing. There isn't time to perfect the story. The nervous system learns that shipping imperfect love today beats architecting fantasy love forever. Mechanism 4, ethical compression. Petty cruelties and casual lies become too expensive. You can't carry their interest to the grave, so you pay now. Admit the mistake, return the money, end the exploit, publish the numbers. Death practice is compliance training for a conscience that hates audits. None of this requires superstition. It requires daily contact with finitude until the body believes it, not thoughts, tissue-level acceptance. Done right, the effect is audible, your speech shortens, your asks get specific, your apologies contain nouns, and your calendar bleeds fluff. If your death contemplation leaves your logistics untouched, start over. You imagined death. You didn't remember it. A secret, the most tender people I know practice death daily. They are also the fastest to say no. Why? Because endings de-idolize approval. When the clock is visible, you stop bartering your hours for smiles. You will still be kind, more so, but your kindness will have edges. Boundaries first. No becomes an act of stewardship. You guard your finite attention for high-value service and high-honesty love. You stop being a convenience store for other people's avoidance. Death makes later expensive, so no becomes cheaper now. People who fed on your compliance will call this cruelty. Translation, the subsidy ended. Apologies next. Death-aware apologies are fast and specific. They contain nouns, I said X to Y at Z, impact, you lost trust, time, repair, here's restitution plus timeline, and monitoring, please check me on date N. You don't defend your halo because halos rot in coffins. You defend relationship by paying what your error costs before the grave locks the ledger. Friendship 2. You stop auditioning and start tending. You choose the 5 souls you'd hold the hand of on a ward at 3 a.m. and you make their names show up on your week. Everyone else, warm, honest distance. Death converts networking into gratitude and fans into neighbors. This is not ice, it's precision. The near enemies will call it harsh. Harsh is feeding people a version of you that will break under pressure. Death practice gives the version that survives the flood. That is love with a warranty. Meditate on death is not an instruction to suppress grief. It's training to drive with grief awake. You don't need a stoic mask. You need a steering wheel. 3 mistakes to burn. Grief as identity. You wear loss like a uniform to prevent new life from happening without permission. Compassion becomes gatekeeping. Death practice bows to grief and refuses tenure. You cry hard, you schedule breakfast. Grief as performance. You export your pain for applause and call it raising awareness. Intimacy becomes content. Death practice keeps grief local until it ripens into service that isn't about you. Grief as anesthesia. You use sadness to justify soft quitting on your life. Death practice prohibits that theft. You can be shattered and still call the lawyer, sign the paper, pack the room, feed the neighbor, because the grave will not delay the invoice. Protocol, spine, not sugar. Ritualize micro funerals. End the day naming one thing that died, an identity, a plan, a delusion. Light nothing, make no speech, exhale. Tomorrow, build on the ash. That drumbeat normalizes endings, so you stop treating every loss like a personal insult from physics. Grief is not a bug. It's the price of attachment honestly paid. Fierce death practice doesn't cheapen that price. It pays it on time, then moves resources to the living. Your tears are real. Your calendar is realer. Love what dies. Then keep your promises to what hasn't yet. Nothing clarifies ethics like a closing window. When tomorrow is a rumor, later stops being a trash bin for your conscience. You either clean the spill or become the spill. Accountability under maraṇasati looks boring and holy at once. Budgets on paper, timelines with names, grievance channels that don't disappear when donors visit, power that rotates before it corrupts, touch and money protocols that protect the weak from the warm. You do this not because you're paranoid, but because you're dying. And you want your house to keep helping strangers when your body can't. Death-aware ethics compress excuses. You stop selling intention as a refund for impact. You repay what you broke. You publish what you promised. You step down before your charisma cages a room. You refuse chosen one narratives because the grave is unbiased and teams outlive saints. Will this make you less magical? Good. Magic without reliability is how communities rot. Let the mystique die. Keep the mechanics. Speech that lands clean. Money that can be traced. Service that continues when you're absent. If your dharma depends on your heartbeat, it's a hobby. If it survives your death, it's real. No gore, no shock. We're adults. Here's a clean stack of practices that turn death into focus without turning you into a statue. Morning timestamp. If today were my last ordinary day, what 3 actions would lower regret for the widest circle? Put them in the first 90 minutes, non-negotiable, midday audit. 1 sentence. If I died at midnight, what conversation must exist? Send the text, book the call, draft the will line, evening micro funeral, name 1 identity/plan that died today. Exhale, archive, do not resurrect it tomorrow unless reality asks. Weekly will hour, move 1 legal financial legacy task from fantasy to file, passwords, beneficiaries, letters, donations. You are not summoning death. You're reducing chaos for those you claim to love. Quarterly vanish day, 24 hours off grid with a notebook. What am I keeping only to avoid the grief of ending it? Kill 1 thing. Give the freed time to someone who needs you. Commemoration, not fetish. Visit a cemetery or hospice in service. Don't make a spectacle. Hold a hand. Write a name. Let compassion touch a body. Safety clause. If you're in acute depression or active self-harm ideation, do not practice alone. This is a clarity tool, not a blade for the already bleeding. Choose community, clinicians, and sunlight first. Death practice should increase appetite for life, not collapse it. If you feel colder, stop and get help. The metric is mundane. More honest calls, cleaner money, faster repair, better sleep. If your rituals inflate drama or shrink your world, you built a shrine to fear. Dismantle it. You want a noble death, earn a useful one. Let the eulogy accuse you of specifics. The child you mentored, the bill you paid, the policy you wrote, the apology you mailed, the poem you printed at 2 a.m. because someone needed it at 9. Let them say your calendar became a weapon against triviality when you started remembering the only truth that can't be negotiated. Maraṇasati isn't a dark mood, it's a discipline of love. It refuses to waste the day on reputation management and calls that refusal spiritual. It keeps your tenderness from turning into theater and your courage from rotting into cruelty. It makes you fierce because it ends your romance with later it makes you kind because it ends your patience for lies that keep people small, including you. So here is the vow I keep on paper. I will live as if my breath is borrowed and due back at any hour. I will compress trivia and expand repair. I will finish the hard sentence before I sleep. I love you. I'm sorry, I can't. I will. I will organize my leaving so others don't have to. I will measure my practice by who breathes easier because I existed. If that sounds dramatic, listen to your pulse. It is already knocking. You are already late to your real life. Do not rehearse your death with numbness. Rehearse it with accuracy, and then overpay the living with warmth. I'm silent flame. Put the clock where you can see it. Then go do the one thing that would make your funeral unnecessary for someone else today.